Well, we have a lot to do on this edition of Outside the Loop, and we're happy that you are here, hopefully staying cool on this Saturday morning. Coming up later this hour, speaking of not staying cool, if you like spicy food, then wow, we've got something for you. We get a preview of the upcoming Chicago Hot Sauce Festival. Before that, local musicians, they work pretty hard to earn a living at what they do. We talked to a Chicago musician who recently rattled the local scene by exposing what life is really like playing around the city. You know, we don't often get a chance to hear the perspectives of life as a local musician from those who are involved in the Chicago music scene. But David Safran, and we've been playing his music all morning, he recently wrote a piece for newcity.com. It's called Less Successful Numbers, The Money of Local Music. And I think it's a really fascinating read to hear this perspective from a local musician, what it's like playing around the city. David Safran joins us this morning. David, nice to talk to you.
Yeah, it's great to talk with you.
And this piece, like I said, I just found it really interesting. And you basically write about your frustrations as a local musician playing around Chicago and basically getting paid for what you want to do and getting paid a fair wage. Before we get into the details of this, why did you decide to write a piece like this?
That's a great question. I'm not entirely sure. The consequences have been that I have been banned from performing in the city of Chicago at various clubs, and I'm sure I've been banned from other venues as well that I just don't know about yet. You did say that it was on the site. It was also in print too, so I think that
in New
City caused a bit of an issue as well in print. It was a firecracker little piece. People talked about it quite a bit. I wrote it because I was frustrated with what I thought were rotten payment deals for musicians, marginalized ones, successful ones, local ones, and I wanted to document my experiences. I was reading an article last week about the rise of op-eds by artists calculating and explaining how little money is being made from creative work, like music, filmmaking, writing, etc.
Yeah.
And the author said, I love this, the author said, mathematics has never looked so hip. So I think I'm part of just a small group. But
yeah.
I mean, honestly, the economic reality of local music is, I think, boring beyond tears. But the music business is a circle of friends holding a revolver to each other's heads, and I thought maybe it's time to leave the circle and maybe start another one, or maybe just expose the process of being in the circle a little more.
Yeah, and I think what you write about is really interesting because you are not afraid to name names. You actually name certain venues here in Chicago. You name people that you've dealt with. And, I played in a band for like 6 or 7 years, and so I can relate to what you're saying because you've got a band and you're not, let's face it, you're not on a marquee anywhere, right? You are a local band. You're trying to do your craft. You're trying to create your art and entertain, and you work really hard at it, and then you don't get paid a whole lot of money. And the way that the whole system is set up is really, it is kind of a mess. But give us an example that you wrote about of why you're frustrated.
I mean, I've been banned, and you know how hard it is to get Chicagoans to do anything. So for anyone to care enough to ban something or to hate something, I see this as wonderful. I mean, a kind of demented, hideous progress. And I've been, for the last month or so since it's been out, I keep thinking about the Kingsley Amis quote, and it's, if you can't annoy somebody with what you write, I think there's little point in writing. So that's been my experience. And, honestly, if these sound bars were just a little bit brighter, they'd realize that maybe instead of banning me, they should book me because perhaps this piece would generate ticket sales.
Well, you also write about how local showcases, they're kind of buried, they're buried in not the best slots possible at these venues. And you get a few bands on the bill, and let's say one band brings 75 people in and another band brings 10. you're basically still dividing the money equally among all the bands on the bills. So again, that's just another example of how kind of screwed up the system is, and it's not equal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had a friend who sent me a message and said a 3-band show at $10 ticket price with 100 people in attendance would net the bands at, say, the Hideout. So he said $708, Empty Bottle $600, a house call show would be $552, Double Door would be $500, and then assuming 4 band members per group with an even split, that's at the Hideout $59 each, Empty Bottle $50 each, house call show is $46 each, Double Door $41 each. House call is like a booking agency that venues will outsource their booking to. So there's a lot of strange numbers here, and I know I said in the piece that numbers are pliable, and that really is what I've learned. They really are pliable. I mean, I don't even know if these numbers exist half the time. I don't know how anyone is making money in this business at either side.
Right. And I think, again, there are a lot of people that are in your boat, that are singer-songwriters or just in a band here in Chicago, and they want to make some money doing what they love to do. And like we've been talking about, you'd like to see the system change. And you mentioned that you've been banned from a lot of these venues, which is, wow, that's tough, because now what are you going to do? Yeah. But I mean, do you see any sort of optimistic outlook with this? Do you think that what you wrote is really starting to make some change? And you said that maybe if they started booking you, that would bring in some tickets. Who knows? Do you see any sort of optimistic view about this whole system, the way it's rigged here in the city?
Oh, I don't know what that word optimism even means. I don't. Well, I've seen a lot of comments about the piece, either in my direction to me, or friends have sent me things. And I mean, there's one guy who commented on the piece, and he missed a few points, but he did suggest very wisely a kind of database of what different venues are charging for production costs, and he called it a Yelp for local music. And I've also received a number of messages about creating like a Chicago-based institution overseeing fair payment for local acts. These are all utopian ideas. I think artists need to get creative. We're the Torquemadas here, not the talent buyers. And there are many places to host musical events outside of standard venues too. I mean, I have an upcoming show at the Leather Archives and Museum. Traditionally, they don't have live music. Now we'll try for it, and we have a wonderful auditorium, and it seats 140, and we'll do tickets ourselves and see what happens. I think it really depends. I think musicians are always going to be against the talent buyer. The talent buyer is always going to be defensive. And I mean, I just think of that old joke: 2 bald men quarreling over a comb. I mean, that's really the musician and the talent buyer. So.
Well, I think, right there, that's optimism. I'm a glass half full kind of guy. So what you're doing by writing this piece, well, I just think that what you're doing with writing this piece, you're inspiring other people to take notice of what's going on here in Chicago. And that's how things get changed. We have to start from the ground up, and you are a part of that. Again, I want to mention that you can check out this article. It's called Less Successful Numbers, The Money of Local Music. It's on newcity.com. We will link up to it on WGNradio.com. And so you can check it out through that. But really, what you're doing, I think it needs to be done. You're speaking some truth to power, and good for you, David Safran. And David Safran is a local musician, and we're spinning his music all morning here on Outside the Loop. So, David, thank you so much for talking about what you're up to with struggling to get some equality for Chicago artists, and best of luck with everything, man.
Thanks so much.
You got it. Mike Steven here on Outside the Loop. We'll take a short break and be right back here on 720 WGN.
So the days go fleeting, can't trust those candle spells. It hurts my friends are breaking,